the workshop today is the second part. So on the first workshop, we were talking about setting up the scene for the monitoring campaign. In this workshop, we will be reflecting about all what it conveys with the processing the collected data. And I have also with me my colleagues. So I'm Nuria Castell, and I'm the project coordinator of City Ops, and I will get what's our objective in City Ops is also to create these tools that can help citizen observatories in increasing inclusivity, in planning actions to protect the environment, also increasing the uptake of data for policy and for contributing to existing observation systems. And in order to do that, we need your expertise, because you are experts on your own citizen observatories. And knowing it or not, you're already using a lot of tools, and you have a lot of insights and knowledge that can be really, really valuable to help others in this endeavor. So your inputs will serve us to fine-tune all the tools and toolkits that we want to develop in this project. The agenda today in this workshop 2 will be a short recap on what we did in workshop 1, and then we will also talk a little bit on how we add value to the data, how we can present the data, and also how you can contribute with your insights, with your questions, to improve this toolkit so that they can serve to many other citizen observatories in Europe and worldwide. And we will also have a little bit of hands-on work on reaching our own goals and ambitions, and this is on the processing and the visualization of the data. So a short recap on version 1. We talked that before we start measuring, we need to understand what do we want to do with the data, what's our objectives, what are our ambitions, and also how to ask the right questions. What do we want to measure, what type of sensor, etc. We also went through aspects that we need to consider when selecting a sensing device or sensors, and there are technical aspects like the power, the how do we want to collect the data, if through Wi-Fi, through internal data logging, but not only technical aspects. There's also non-technical aspects that are as important as the technical ones, and that is the sensor easy to use? Can we deploy it in the place we want to be deployed? Is the data open? What type of license has the data, etc., etc. And then we also get, we want to have static sensors that we mount. Do we want to have mobile sensors that we can mount, for example, on bikes or on the cars, and we can, or we want to have wearables that people can carry with themselves. And we went through the pros and cons of each of them, right? And I will not go again through them, but this is all in the information you have within the toolkit and also in the recording of the workshop 1. And then, we also finally went to this, how can you choose the platform? And you can see here the how is between parentheses, and this is because sometimes you cannot choose the platform. When you choose the sensor, you're choosing the platform. So this is important that you both consider both side by side, because if the data, and in most of the cases, is stored safely, then the non-technical aspects of choosing a platform become really, really important. And this is because a lot of platforms will not work with open data principles, and also in a lot of cases the ownership of the data will belong to the sensor manufacturer, and that means that then you cannot freely download the data and share it with other people as you might want to do in your citizen observatory. So this is aspects that one needs to consider when choosing a sensor and the platform. And there was also my colleague Hester shared this example from the Netherlands of this. You can see here in the figure this citizen that it's looking through the window. There's a lot of people having a good time and smoking, but right outside their window, and he maybe cannot sleep because of the noise. He can also not breathe well. A lot of smoke going inside his house, and he started this monitoring campaign. And first he was choosing some monitoring devices and even having people to come, professionals coming to his house to monitor smoke from the smoking, and with this data he went to the public health services, to the authorities, and nobody was really paying attention to this data. Then he went to another road and installed a sensor to monitor PM2.5 outside the house. He saw a lot of peaks that corresponding when the people was outside smoking, but still, like this data was not fully taken into consideration by the authorities. And it was only when he compared this data with the data in other areas of the neighborhood where there were not bars and people smoking outside that the authorities start realizing that his peaks were really, really high compared to other areas, and then they were starting taking actions. So this combines a little bit what we were talking, right? Like having what's your objective, having this contextual information, having the right measurements that will be taken by other authorities, so that you achieve your goals. And also, as you can see here, having these beautiful representations that have two parts, right? Like this storytelling with a nice drawing, but also these graphs. So let's dive a little bit more into how we can achieve these stories with our data. And then I leave the floor to my colleague Hester, that will be talking about adding value and extracting information out of data. Hester.
Yes, thank you, Nuria. Yeah, I can tell you a lot about this. But let me start in the next slide by addressing the elephant in the room. If you start doing air quality measurements, can you go to the next one? Yeah, so when you start doing air quality measurements with your own sensors, usually is PM, particulate matter, and the first thing you run into is that the people who work with this data, so that is my colleagues, because I work in an institute where we do the official measurements, and the first thing that people will talk about is the quality of your data. Your sensor is not as good as the official instruments, and it's not and that is the comment you will get. They will say, we don't have to take your sensor data into account. Also, politicians will tell you that we don't have to take that into account because it's not as good as the official data. And the bad thing about that is that they are right. Your sensor is not doing the same as the official instruments. It does not have the same precision. It does not have the same accuracy. it is also not as reliable and stable. You cannot, the lifetime of a sensor is usually not years and years and years. You cannot make trends for years and years. You cannot be accurate enough to determine whether you are over the norm or not. You cannot affect the things you need to measure for the regulations or to find the health effects. So they are right. You are not doing the same thing as for the official measurements. But the thing is that implicit, if people giving you that comment, like your sensor is not as good as the official one, they are also implying that you have the same goals as the official measurements. And this is not necessarily the case. Because if we go back to the smokers, then this is a guy who has a very specific problem. He's not interested whether his measurements are representative for a large area, like for the official measurements. He's exactly interested in the opposite thing. His measurements are hyper local because he wants to see the effect of the smokers outside his door. And for that, you need just a lot of different instruments in the same neighborhood. Not one very good instrument to measure for the whole neighborhood. No, it's better to have a lot of sensors that do a lot of measurements so you can see small differences within the neighborhood. So he actually is better off using sensor data because you can put a lot of different sensors in the neighborhood. So you can achieve different answers to different questions. Also, he's not so interested in whether the data is absolutely correct. So it doesn't matter if the peak is 150 micrograms per cubic meter or 160. That's not so interesting. It is a lot higher than the 20 or 30 micrograms that the neighbors in the other street are measuring. So that is here significant. So it's whether it's over 100, that's bad for you. That's bad air quality. So here you have enough with relative measurements. You don't need the absolute values. So, and also what he needs here is to do measurements that take a couple of weeks because he's interested in the difference between the weekend days when the smokers are having a party outside his door. That's on Saturday and Friday night and Saturday night. So that is, if he has measurements for a couple of weeks, that is showing the point. He doesn't have to measure for 5 years or 20 years in a row. So it depends very much on your research question, what the quality of the data you need. So you should look for the strong points of these sensors. That doesn't mean that you cannot add quality. You can add quality of the data by adding this context. So to go into this a little bit further, you can see here a part of the city of Rotterdam. There's lots of sensors there, and the sheer number of these sensors is what is making this actually very strong. Because what you can see here is, and you can actually improve the quality of the project by checking, do regular checkups and see. This was yesterday, I think, yeah, no, 2 days ago, and the air quality in the Netherlands and in Rotterdam was really bad. Most of the dots are red or orange, and you see a couple of blue ones. So if your sensor is blue and the others are red, you better check, because I checked the blue ones and they all give the same result. They're just not measuring anything. They're just measuring zero. The other way around, it also works. If all the sensors are blue and your one is red, so it's really different from the rest, you better check. And this one is just measuring 1,000, and that is just not realistic, especially because you can see the other ones in the neighborhood are blue. So that is how the context, so the other sensors in the neighborhood, the extra information you have, how that can actually put you on give you information on check your sensor. You may ask, why don't we throw away these bad sensors? We have the platform, so we could do that. Yeah, but it's not our data. This is data from the people. We don't know what's going on with your sensor, whether you are doing something very special with it. So you can do the checking of the data yourself, and you can do that by comparing with other sensors in the neighborhood. So more sensors is better. So if you are in a project here, we have again the city of Rotterdam, and you can see on the map the brown dot and the blue dot, and they are very close together. They should be more or less the same. And you see the brown is a lot lower than the blue one. Which one is correct? Anyone an idea? Put it in the chat. But I can also tell you the answer by clicking on a couple more of these dots, and then you can see it was the blue one that was right, because we now have a green and a purple one, and they are almost exactly on top of the blue one. So this is how you can tell, okay, there's something with my sensor. You can see, by the way, that they are having more or less the same behavior. So actually, the brown one could probably be corrected. Once we know this information, we can probably do something about it. Another way to check your data, if you are if you have them in the neighborhood, in this case, we have an official data point in the neighborhood. And again, if you check the brown dot and you compare it to the official data, you can see the official data is a lot higher. And if you look at the next slide, there's the blue dot. If we compare that to the official data, it's spot on. And if you are an official or a scientist and you look at this data and you see how perfectly these data align, you must be impressed. Especially if there's a lot of sensors, and if some sensors don't work properly, like the brown one, too bad. If there's a lot of data, you can just throw away the data you don't like. So that adds a lot of value in the project, just to have a lot of data. So I'm going to round off a little bit now. So if you want your data to be taken seriously, it helps to know the quality of the data. It doesn't have to be perfect data. It doesn't have to be very high quality. But if you know the quality of the data, if you can make a distinction between the ones that are bad and good, and if you know, it helps just to have a lot of different sensors, because then you can assess the quality of the data. And again, it doesn't have to be the perfect data, but if you know the quality, people can work with it. And you have to add context. So if you have the data, the time, the type of sensor, the location, things that you know about the surroundings, the things you see or smell, the pictures of the smoking people outside your door, that all adds to the value and the quality of the data, and it helps for the data to be taken seriously and to have impact. So if you think, yeah, but these are all examples from the Netherlands, and there they have already a very nice platform and many sensors, so this is all very easy for you. You are absolutely right. It took us years to get there to the point, so it's difficult, but the whole aim of this project of CityOps is that we combine the knowledge of all these different countries and different partners and different frontrunner cities. So we are working on making this interoperable architecture and this visualization tools available for everybody. And we would love to have your help and your feedback with that. But that is something that my colleagues Nuria and Oscar will tell you more about in the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Hester. I pass now to David, that will be talking us a little bit to the presenting and making data available.
And just before doing that, as a translation, just what Esther said, I think is super important, because when we talk about quality and accuracy, it means a lot and means nothing at the same time. Because the same quality of data, it could be low accuracy, but if it's at the right place at the right time and the data is made available to the right people, it changes everything. So again, accuracy and quality is totally subjective, even though we would like to think it's something that's very, written down and very specific. So, and as was said again, it's everything depends on your purpose. What are you trying to achieve? And as Esther said, about the context. So every data you're going to be using, you want to take this into account. And this makes the link with the how do we present and make the data available. That's another part of the context. Who are you trying to reach? What is the message you're trying to tell? And we could tell what is the story you're trying to tell. Often when you talk, if you can go on the next slide, when we talk about stories, people feel like we want to tell them things that are not true. Here, it's not the case. It's what's the action you're waiting from the people you're talking to. So I like this presentation of actually data is not a goal. Collecting data is just a mean of achieving a goal. Of course, you have to process that data, and it will be shown after, to turn that data into stories. So again, I really like that presentation of first you collect the data, then you have to sort them, then you have to make them available through visualization. But still, even when you have done this, you're not done. It's just a way of communicating your message. Then you can do your analysis and do the storytelling. And what Esther again said about that person smoking in front of the window, this tells more than the data itself. It tells of how people can engage and how can they make a change. The data is not the goal, it's just one way to communicate the message to the stakeholders or you people you're waiting action from. So it's important to make sure that on the next slide we have that data is made accessible even to non-experts. So again, what's your story, what's your purpose, what's the context, and make sure you're going to adapt your output to your audience. Use the right word. If you're in face of talking to scientists, use science language. Just make sure you're using the right words with the right people. But of course, if you're trying to reach kids or a journalist, make sure again that you're going to adapt your output to the people you want to talk to. And of course, make it sexy, make it look good, because what is good and nice is twice as good. So just make sure that the output is compelling, attractive, so you will get some engagement. And again, the engagement is also super important to get that feedback from the people. So whether it's a community or the people you will be talking to, make sure that you can get that feedback from them to improve over time. So again, tell stories. And as we can see on the next slide, there are many ways you can present data. It can be super complex, or it could be as simple as the one we have on the top left, or it can go deeper to maps where you will be able to click on. It's not because it's more complex and more complete that it's better. It again has to be adapted to the people you want to talk to and the people you are waiting action from. So this is what I want to talk about rapidly. Just again, make sure that you're not just here to collect data. Make sure that you have in mind what's the action you're waiting for the people you are talking to, and then adapt the output of your work to make sure you can reach that goal. So again, collecting data is not a goal. It's just one way to achieve the goal.
Thank you. I think with that, I would like to present a little bit, right? Like I think this is a right like what we aim in the City Ops project. Our overall aim is that if we think about citizens observatories as water drops, right? Like you are there alone with your own characteristics and your own space, but we can think we will come together, we become an ocean that's make about many water drops, and that's what we want to do with this building in these interoperable open data and standards-based architectures for citizen observatories, so that the data that we are collecting can come together and mobilize. And if we come back to the story of Hester, of the smokers, this is, I'm pretty sure that's not the only person in the world having this problem, right? And all the things, all the way that he went through can help others in the same or similar situations and pave the way. So how are we working here in the city ops? What are the things we are proposing that can be hopefully of help to you on the technological side? So we have the city ops sensors and wearables that we do have also available to you, and that you can use them to complement maybe already observations that you are conducting. So here we are working with Fab Lab Barcelona on the Smart Citizen Kit, and also then with the Smart Citizen Data Platform that you can have access. And the choice of this has not been random. The choice of this is because this sensor works with open data and open hardware and open software. So it complies with all these that we are aiming at, having all the data open and able to contribute, and the people that is collecting the data has ownership over their own data and can share it and manipulate it as they will and want. We are also helping you, like we have seen, and David said it very well, collecting data is just a way, like then we need to be make able to tell stories about this data. So we are helping you with the city ops processing and visualizing tools. And here we are developing tools for what we call analysis ready data and decision ready information. This is tools to help to validate the data, also to add more quality into the data and understand at the end like data of known quality. And decision ready information is also merging the data that is collected in the citizen observatories with official data, with models, with satellite information, so we can extract not also information out of this data that is telling us stories. But we don't want to be the only ones analyzing the data, and we know that analyzing data is complex. So we are also developing tools for communities, and those tools for communities shall be able to help you in gathering your data, creating graphs, creating a statistical analysis that can, at the end, help you to answer your research questions. As I already mentioned, like we address this, creating this state interoperable and standards for citizen observatories, and and we know this is really difficult. So we want to pave the way and create guidelines and tools that really help you to use those standards. And at the end, very end, we want to demonstrate the power when citizens observatories come together using this interoperability and these standardizations into a web portal, and show the power of having the data open and in a standard way, and then that others, not only ourselves but also others, can use them towards creating a healthier and more sustainable cities around Europe. So that's what I wanted to say. And as now Oscar will also tell you a little bit of how you can contribute to our endeavor.
Thank you, Nuria. So this part of the presentation is mostly about you and how you can actually contribute to the toolkit and provide feedback. So in the next slide, we have, oh, animations didn't play as I wanted. That's okay. Let's go through them. So your contributions are really important, and you have three main ways to contribute feedback. The first one is that we have enabled feedback buttons on the toolkit itself. The second one is that you will also have access to feedback forms. And finally, if you are familiar with GitHub, you can also give feedback there, either via issues, or if you are also familiar with Markdown and coding, maybe you can also even write a pull request and directly give us feedback on there. The main outcome here is that, well, the toolkits are also open. So right now we are heavily invested in developing them, but they will stay open after the project, and they will be hosted as open source, and then anybody can benefit from them. But of course, if you want to contribute to that, to them, it's encouraged, and this is the way that we are looking forward to hearing that feedback. So how to get the feedback button? So if you go to the toolkit, you will see on the right hand side on the content that there's a small emoji box that says what's this helpful, and then you can give us some feedback and add a paragraph there whether you liked it or not. This is something that we will directly get on our end, and then of course it's the most immediate and easy one for you to fill out. On the next one, you also have the feedback form, and here we want to have it a little bit more organized. So if you are submitting feedback, please follow these guidelines. You don't have to remember them because they are also in the toolkit itself. And the idea is that we want to know whether or not you want to give feedback on a problem. Maybe there's a typo or something is not working well, or you want to submit content. And in there you have possibility to add more, maybe an article that is missing, or you want to contribute some experiences. And in case that there's problems, well, we want to know what's going on, and maybe provide feedbacks on where to find the errors and what would you improve, and maybe what are also the changes and motivations by which you will be wanting to change the page itself. Finally, if you are familiar with GitHub, this is maybe not the case for everybody, but you can use issues or pull requests, and you have a small button as well on the right-hand side, right below the feedback area that we talked about before, which says edit on GitHub, and there it will direct you to the GitHub page and the Environmental Monitoring Toolkit repository. And if you're familiar with issues or pull requests, you can open an issue, which is basically a way for us to collect the same feedback as on the other ones, but we will have the feedback directly integrated in GitHub and be able to track it, discuss with you. You can add comments or and much more rich features. And if you're really eager to contribute and you want to maybe add more content or already fix the problem that you find, you can also submit a pull request, which basically is requesting to integrate some changes on the toolkit itself, and you can do that through GitHub. And we are really happy to see if there are contributions or at least feedback to check how the toolkit is working. And this is